1 day until the NFL trade deadline. That comes our way at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. Number of names that have been in trade speculation pieces over the past couple of weeks, but we'll see if anything manages to come to fruition in the next 24 hours. And to that end, let's bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, to discuss a few possibilities here. JJ, looking at the haves and the have-nots so far in the season, who do you have as a few teams who you'd consider buyers at the trade deadline?
Well, first of all, Jeremy, a buyer needs to be sort of defined as a team that is very likely a winning team right now, but also a team that is feeling very good about themselves coming off of Sunday. And I want to just say this. It is a little bit ridiculous for a number of teams, philosophically speaking, that they wanted to wait to see how they performed on Sunday to then make a long-term decision about their franchise, as though a certain Week 8 game should dictate what they do over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, depending upon the impact that a trade would have on their team. Now that I'm off that soapbox, I want to talk about some buyers. And the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that they were a buyer for Kevin Byard last week. I've been told that they may not be done, the Philadelphia Eagles, that they could very well go after some cornerback help. We saw the Seattle Seahawks just go after Frank Clark. They could still go after someone else. The Detroit Lions could always add a defensive back or a defensive lineman. The Atlanta Falcons, a number of reports have linked them closely with Montez Sweat. He of Stone Mountain, Georgia. I think that a reunion there is certainly possible, depending on what happens. I don't know that the Cowboys are necessarily moved to make any moves. And then, of course, sitting there right there in the 7th seed, the Miami Vikings, a very, very interesting team that I know we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, one of the names in trade discussion for the past few weeks has been the Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins, with his big contract. But now with the Achilles tear, that's off the table. So when you look at the Vikings, for all intents and purposes, Cousins is now done with this team. What do the Vikings do at the deadline?
It is fascinating. And Jeremy, I can tell you that I have been talking with league sources across various clubs really since we saw what the MRI will soon very likely confirm, a torn Achilles for Kirk Cousins, and he will be done not just for this season, but very likely for his Vikings tenure. What I would think and suppose here is that the Vikings, in that 7th seed right now, would want to kind of keep vibes high and find another quarterback because Jaren Hall is not going to be the guy that they should really want to roll with for the rest of the season. So a quick and easy fix would be a Colt McCoy, for example, someone that they know and he knows the offense well. There'd be a question of whether he would be able to lift them to the playoffs or not. But they could, Jeremy could go out and trade for someone. And if you talk with one league source, they're going to tell you, oh, they could do this. If you talk with someone else, they could tell you, obviously, something else. A name that has been floated around by various sources to me, independent of the Minnesota Vikings, Ryan Tannehill with the Tennessee Titans, especially after what we just saw with Will Levis, the 4-touchdown performance that he had against the Atlanta Falcons. Could Ryan Tannehill ultimately be traded for? I don't know. He has the injury. This just happened with Kirk Cousins. Look, you plan for a number of contingencies as a general manager, as a personnel staff. But the one thing, 48 hours before the trade deadline that you really don't anticipate or really plan for is having to go out and trade for a franchise caliber starting quarterback when your guy goes down. The Vikings have been planning for life after Kirk Cousins. They just weren't planning on it happening right now. So the quick and easy thing, like I said, is go sign someone like Colt McCoy, the very difficult thing to do. And because it's so difficult, it's hard to imagine it ultimately can happen by 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, is trading for a veteran.
Well, the timing, timing is everything. The timing couldn't be worse for the Vikings in terms of that quarterback situation, as you point out. All right, well, good news in terms of quarterbacks for Giants fans on Monday. Daniel Jones cleared for contact. JJ, before we get your thoughts on this, here's head coach Brian Daboll speaking on Monday.
He met with the doctor pregame. So they did his tests. Last week he did it on, the week before he did on Friday. So he did his test and he told me that he'd be ready to go next week.
So that means that Daniel will be on the practice field and should be good to go full on Wednesday. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so a curious situation here, JJ. He was cleared on Sunday, but didn't suit up. Given what happened to Tyrod Taylor, I mean, obviously, they could have used him.
You know, I was texting with a source this morning, and they told me, yeah, he was cleared on Sunday morning, actually. I said, Sunday morning? Well, then why didn't he play? And look, you can agree or disagree with this, but obviously actives and inactives are due 90 minutes before a game. That's 11:30 a.m. Eastern for this game. And so was he cleared by the doctors before inactives were even announced? Perhaps, but we don't actually know that. But even let's say that he was actually cleared before the inactives would have been announced. We're talking about a guy who over the past 2 weeks has really just taken some scout team reps. And so while do you want to say, okay, doctors just cleared you for contact? Well, go out there and get some contact, Daniel. I don't know that that would necessarily be the best thing for him. I don't know that that's putting him and the rest of the team in the best position possible. Knowing what we all know now, would it have been nice to have him active if he was indeed good to go? Certainly. And Daniel Jones himself, I believe, having spoken with him any number of times over the years, that he would have wanted to suit up no matter what. The fact of the matter is that the team ultimately has to make what's in the best interest of Daniel, but also the team itself. And so I don't personally have any qualms with them not having him active, even if they could have, even if he had been cleared by the time inactives would have been announced. Get him a full week of practice with the ones, because he hasn't had that in several weeks, and have him suited and booted, ready to go for this upcoming week.
Well, and experiencing contact is something he's definitely done as a pivot for the Giants this season. They're in Vegas to face the Raiders on Sunday. Thanks to our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, chiming in here with some, perhaps a little bit of trade talk ahead of the deadline, 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. All right. The NFL Today on CBS every Sunday morning. They get you all prepped and ready with the latest news, notes, and expert analysis. You can watch on CBS or stream on the go via